Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the Tuesday at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. What Are We Doing series here at Pursuit of Purpose. Today's topic is going to be something that has an impact on each and every one of us in one way or another.
And it does.
So what's that topic, Chuck?
Well, the topic is it's the hidden force that's shaping America, and that is entitlement.
Entitlement. And this word, it's a fascinating word. It gets thrown around a lot. It gets used to describe government programs. It gets used to describe the mentality of a lot of our youth, different generations, different ways. It gets misused, I believe. And, you know, it has positive and negative attributes and connotations. So we're going to look at this on both sides of that spectrum today. We're going to talk about, you know, how does it negatively impact American culture? How does it positively impact our way of life and possibly in the family? So we're going to touch on a lot of topics, and we really would love input from our audience. We appreciate all of you guys. And if you're joining us now, we thank you. Just to let everybody know, we are now available on X. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Kick, Twitch, and TikTok. So we appreciate you from whatever platform you're joining from, whatever part of the world you're in, and whatever perspective you may have about the topic of entitlement. Right. So first of all, Chuck, would you, even if it's just in your own words, define entitlement? What does it mean?
Well, I'm gonna split the camp. I'm gonna put it in two categories. So, not too many years ago, my family and I, we have this family thread, and we're discussing this subject of entitlements. And obviously, some folks were just heavy on the negatives, which maybe we'll get to some of those in a little bit. And one of the retired people chimed in and said, "Well, wait a minute, I get Social Security." And that's an entitlement because that's how our government has labeled it. They said, does that mean that I'm one of those negatives? To which my response was, no, ma'am, you're a depositor. You as a depositor, you should have an expectation of return. Where it's negative is when people get they're not getting a return, they're getting an instead. And because there's been no investment, that's when it becomes negative. So if that helps people understand the way my mind sees two different camps.
Right.
So if you have someone who is just, and I'll put it in the simplest vernacular that I can. If you're getting something for nothing, that's going to have an effect, and it's not going to be a good one.
Okay. So just to be very clear, we want to make sure that the audience understands Social Security, while it may be categorized as an entitlement program by the government, with the exception of the unearned potential, there's some abuse for the disability program of Social Security, but that's not what we're talking about here. No. What we're talking about here is the Social Security program where people pay in for their working lifetime.
Mandatory, by the way.
Yes, they pay into this system, and then with the reasonable expectation that when they reach the designated retirement age, they should receive a repayment.
Yes.
With interest
of some amount
from that system. And the unfortunate truth is that our blessed government has chosen to borrow, quote unquote, borrow from that system over the years and pretty much put it in hock.
Well, they borrowed from potential. That's a key word there.
Right.
It's subjective, potential future depositors. So basically their argument is, well, we know we have this many people entering to the workforce every year, and we are going to be able to extract this much money from them. And that they're also calculating, reasonable promotions and people making more money. And so they go through all that. And so they're borrowing against an uncertain future.
Right. So I've got a story. I'm gonna read it to you. It's a really quick story, but it kind of helps to define the type of entitlement that we're talking about here. And if you would, in your minds, picture a farmer standing in a field, staring at the soil, demanding a harvest, but he never planted a single seed. That's entitlement. It's expecting results without effort.
Right.
And that's powerful.
Right.
And the amazing thing is, and I'm gonna shift focus a little bit here and talk about the cultural impact or cultural results of an entitlement mentality or even an ideology.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is, okay, let's go to something that it's kind of sensitive, but we'll talk about it. So we've got generations of people who are entering the workforce age from 17 up. Let's say 17 to whatever that might be.
Right.
They are able-bodied, able-minded. They have nothing but opportunity.
Right.
This group I'm referencing, they are not disabled.
Right.
They have mental capacity, physical ability, and they even have gifts.
Yeah.
They have
Talents. Yes.
They have marketable wares.
Right.
For lack of a better way to put it. And they make a decision that instead of marketing myself and trading my time, energy, and talent for money,
right,
I am going to apply with the expectation of receiving money from what I think is the government, but actually it's my neighbors who pay taxes.
Right.
I'm going to go down and apply for government benefits.
Right.
I'm going to get myself involved with an entitlement program. Now, this is no truer of a way to apply that word.
Right.
That is the concept of believing or having the mentality of entitlement.
Yes.
And what's to make matters worse, and I don't care what you look like, it doesn't matter.
No, absolutely.
To make matters worse,
yes,
we as a nation, as a society, have unfortunately incentivized our young people with a system that increases their income according to the amount of procreation they take part in. So we have created an atmosphere in which a person, and there's even social media videos about this. How ridiculous is that?
Right.
That a young lady can go out, be sexually promiscuous without protection or precaution, get herself impregnated,
right,
create another life, bring that life into the world with the sole idea that that's going to support her.
That's right. And
until that kid reaches the age where it no longer creates the benefits entitlement.
Yes.
So then they have more.
Yes.
And there's a trend right now on social media. I checked this out. I did some research before the show. There's a trend where there are young ladies on different platforms challenging other young ladies to don't work, just go out and get yourself pregnant, because there are programs that will support you if you just create more babies.
And there it is. There is that. If you have someone who can create some promoting video as you're referencing, then that right there is a persuasion of mental thinking. That's a mental status.
It's an ideology.
It's an ideology. And once it gets adopted, then it gets expected, which is just a segue to entitlement. And so at some point, and so you ask these folks, you say, where does that money come from? They say, well, the government will pay you. And so I ask, and I know you ask, and I know a lot of our viewers ask, the next question is, well, then how does the government get paid?
Right.
Well, they don't have companies. They don't have a productive revenue stream. They basically have to extract that from a willing or unwilling participant, and that's a taxpayer. So basically, those folks are producing a situation, and they're incentivized to do it, to live off of a system that somebody else affords. Now, that questions some character at some level. I'm going to live off of somebody else?
Well, I'm going to challenge what you said there, the way you said it, okay? So here's the problem, and I want to I want to get away from the entitlement mentality personally. And what you said was they are creating, they are believing, they are thinking.
Okay.
And I want to change that to we.
We. Okay.
And I don't like it. It's not fun, comfortable, and it doesn't feel good in any way. But the truth is that we, the people, we as an American society have created this monster.
Yes.
It is our fault. And I take part in that. And the reason it's our fault is we got somebody commenting on there. They have a money printer machine. Let's see. Hockey God would love to hear comments on the Argentina bailout. Well, tell us. I personally am not educated enough about it to understand it, so I can't give any comments, like intelligent comments to that effect.
Right.
But I'd love to hear more about that. But back where we were, we created this monster. We created this ideology. We gave way to it, and we're perpetuating it by not paying attention to those we vote for. The candidates that we elect are supposed to be our servant leaders.
Yes.
They are not supposed to be gods, or they're not actually supposed to be like the ones we look to for all the answers.
Right.
They're supposed to look to us.
Yes.
They're supposed to listen to us.
Yes.
And if we don't begin changing that tide,
right,
they're going to train us how to vote based on this ideology. And I truly believe that I got into a discussion this morning with a very intelligent person. He is a friend of mine, and he helped me understand what his research and what his understanding is about the origin of entitlement programs, the ones he was referencing. And he provided some very good information, and I appreciate it. We had a great discussion. Good. But I'm going to say this, and I'm open to be argued with. It's just my opinion. But in my belief, the origin of the entitlement system gave way for political vote purchasing. It was one of the most open systems to corruption. Right. Because it is, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to believe this, and that's okay if you don't. But in my belief, in my understanding, in my experience, it's actually one of the reasons that we have such a systematic problem with illegal immigration. Sure. Is because we have allowed people to hold office in our country who want to get votes by any means necessary, rather than the right way, the moral way, the just way. Right. So we are compromising the integrity of ourselves, our system, our culture, our society, and the rest of the world by allowing this to go on. Right.
And so if you think about it, I mean, I know this may sound like just, basic psychology, but people will, if they're given something, let's say we're looking at, say, a parent-child situation. And if a parent just continues to offer to this child these I don't know what you want to call them, gifts, all their little pleasures, all the little blingy things that they want. So when you're doing that to a young child, that child doesn't know any better. The child doesn't know that somebody had to go out and work for that money and pay those things. So if that's all the child ever gets, then the child will presume that's what they'll always get. And so at some point, that child is going to have some, I don't know, I'm just going to use some cliches here, some type of codependent relationship on that provider, whoever that provider is, if it's a parent. And then next thing you know, they're not incentivized to go to produce it on their own. Countless times I've had parents come in here and now their kids are reaching late teens, early 20s, and there's no incentive, there's no motivation to go and to build, to do the things that their folks did and their grandparents before them. And they're asking me, how did my child get to this point? And I won't so bad. I try to be more polite in the conversation, but for the sake of our talk, I'll go, really? You have no idea how your child got here. And then, but eventually we have conversation. They said, well, I guess maybe I probably gave in too much. And I'm thinking, yes, you did. At some point, the child wasn't motivated to produce on their own. And it's kind of like that. But I want to say this too, and I may be getting ahead of our conversation a little bit, but I was telling this to a friend the other day who's been very generous to a lot of her family. People that fall in difficult times, and she's come in and helped them out a little bit and what have you. And what she's noticed is that some of those people, a large portion of those people, that she became the helper to because she was a good producer. She had money and what have you. She said they had been rude to me. They've been dismissive. They've been almost rejecting. And she said, and Chuck, I'm not saying that they owed me anything, but why would they treat me this way after everything I know that I've done? I said, it's because you represent what they should have done.
Right.
They allowed themselves to get into this terrible negative situation. And now when they see you, they're reminded of that. And that speaks sometimes to the cultural side of what we're talking about, is you see a lot of folks who are on the receiving end of these entitlements, and they have a very negative perception of those who are providing the entitlement.
Right.
Our country, and then they turn it into all kind of other divisive things, divisive ideas about certain types of people, and you have and we don't and what have you. And when I told her that, I said, that same thing happens in our country. So it's interesting. We're talking about this today. She goes, I can see it. I can see it.
Right. So the gentleman that I spoke of, that I had the conversation with this morning, he's commented now, and I'm going to go ahead and show his comment.
Okay.
And I really appreciate his engagement and involvement. Kent, thank you. Thank you very much for engaging with us today. And I do know that no matter what happens with our discussion with Kent, he's been a guest on the show. He's a friend of the show. He's a friend of mine. He's a friend of yours. He will be nothing but respectful.
Yes.
And he will offer a very fair, balanced, and honest exchange.
Yes.
So his comment is now up on the screen. I've looked for any credible data tying SNAP or other programs to vote corruption, and there just isn't any. If anything, people on assistance vote less often, not more. Most are just trying to get by, not plotting at the ballot box. We've had programs like this for nearly a century under presidents from both parties, because they stabilize families and local economies. Fraud and vote manipulation make for good political talking points, but the numbers simply don't back it up if corrupt. Now, Kent, I'm going to go ahead and address that, if you don't mind. So I agree with you. There's not going to be findable, provable, recorded data that flies in the face of the reason that I said what I said. Now, I'm not saying it's some big, huge, massive conspiracy or anything like that, but the manipulation or the propagandized part of this is not about provable data. It's about the mentality. It's about creating a mentality that says, Uncle Sam's going to rescue you. Now, I have no problem helping those in need. I have no problem being a resource to people who are truly in need.
Yes.
Disabled, elderly, whatever the case may be, that really need those resources.
Absolutely.
I think that's beautiful. And I think you're right about the other point that you made, that you sent me privately, about it being a valuable engine in part of our economy.
Yeah.
I really agree with that.
Right.
Like you said, Kent, that we are really not that far apart.
Right.
And I do agree with you that both sides of the aisle use this. I fall into a different camp in this train of thought. I do not believe that this is Republican or Democrat necessarily. I think that over the years it's been used, abused, and manipulated by both sides.
Yes.
So when I say that entitlement mentality, entitlement ideology is bad and a manipulation.
Yes.
These are not the things I'm referencing.
Right.
Okay. The things that I'm referencing are the manipulative factors behind them or through them. It's the things between the lines. It's not about the program itself.
Right.
The program itself, I believe, was set up with good intentions and has good function.
Sure.
That's not the purpose behind my argument.
if I may add, and thank you, Kent, I appreciate you on so many levels, our friend. And but I will also say this: I think anybody that's listening today would be agreeable to say that our government is typically not set up to be the most efficient, workable systems, like if you will, like a company. I was just talking to a businessman earlier today, and he is looking, he's already projecting well into 2026 his numbers. So he's making decisions today to affect those projectable numbers so that everybody wins. He is an owner, and then plus all of the folks that he hires and what have you. Well, the government's not really set up for that. And I believe people would agree that in a lot of these situations, these large scale programs, call it entitlement programs, they are facilitated by these massive departments, and they get these humongous budgets, and probably statistically a small portion actually goes to those in need, and the majority of it goes to produce jobs, if you will. And then I'm going to go out on a limb here. This is me, not Rob, but he may agree or not. And I guarantee you that there are folks that work in those departments who are persuaded to redonate some of that money back to some of the people that keep them in a job. And so this becomes a revenue stream for political people who are trying to stay in party. So therefore, indirectly, yes, entitlement programs do keep some certain people in their political positions. It happens, and we all know that it does. But I will say this as a positive. I'm proud that we have a country who can look at folks who are born with, let's say, special needs. They're broken bodies, broken minds, broken developmental abilities, and we are able to afford those people a quality of life, them and their parents, because just because they have, and I'll use the word, a handicap of some sort, doesn't mean they're not valuable to us as a citizen. They're still very valuable people. To me, that is the best place for an entitlement program to be, not for those able-bodied, but for those who don't have an able body and the people who take care of them. And I'm proud that we can do that as a country. We don't let them go by the wayside.
Yes.
But I did want to bring out about the government waste, and we all know that it happens. And we can keep the process going, or we can do something about it. And hopefully this conversation is going to have some influence.
So I've got, now I'm gonna okay. Let's see. Kent has put out another comment. If a business is judged by profit, a government is judged by stability and service. Keeping kids from going hungry, keeping farms. Let's see. Let's put that up on the screen. Keeping farms from going under, and keeping small town grocery stores open during the hard times. You're right. The government doesn't always look far enough ahead, but programs like SNAP are one of the rare examples where it actually did. It saw what happens when people can't eat and farmers can't sell, but built a system that benefits both. And I have no argument for that.
No.
Now, that's not the point of this at all. The point of this discussion is about the ideology of an entitlement mentality. Mm-hmm. We haven't even brought up SNAP. We haven't even brought up a specific program at all.
No.
Personally, I have made some posts on social media about things like that, because there is a rise in the political worlds where they're using this as fodder on both sides. And so I've made some posts about that on my personal Facebook page and different social media outlets. But this discussion is more about the mentality of entitlement.
So I have a question for Kent, because Kent has been an excellent contributor today. So if you acknowledge, and I presume that you will, acknowledge that the system as it's been has now created this mentality in yet another generation of people who will not use the best of their God-given talents to go out and produce things that they can be very esteemed about. Instead, they are going to follow a trend and slip right into the trench that generations before them have. And basically, it will be suspending their personal development. If you agree that that is happening, then what do you suggest that we do differently? Because whatever we've done thus far is not working well.
Well, That's a fair question. And one of the things about this, and we've got some notes here and some research, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but one of the things that you're kind of working towards is when we build a system that perpetuates an ideology of mentality, we are absolutely crippling our future as a society. Mm-hmm. We are taking away the creative drive and ambition that created this nation in the first place. Mm-hmm. All right, Kent. Kent has made another comment. I'm going to put it up on the screen. It says, there is no credible research showing that entitlement programs like SNAP, Medicaid, or Social Security have fundamentally changed the mentality or work ethic of American youth. Actually, that's not true.
That's not true, man.
I have the research right here. I'll put it up on my social media after the show for public consumption. But I have like several articles, outlines, graphs, charts, all kind of stuff that I'll put up at anybody who wants to see it. And I'll send you I'll put up the links where it came from, how it was built. They're produced by universities and government entities, but it is factual that the entitlement mentality, the ideology of it, has been perpetuated by systems that can be gamed by those who are not deserving.
Yes.
And that's one of those issues. Now, I'm not saying that the majority of people on SNAP don't need it.
Sure.
I have no idea. I'm not judging that at all.
Yes.
My judgment is that we do have a problem perpetuating the ideology of entitlement.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
And I'm not down in those programs. I think they have their place. I think they create value, and I think that they're extremely appropriate.
Yes.
For some people.
And I will say personally, I'm sure myself, Rob, and definitely Kent and members of the audience have known people who have been in those most undesirable of situations where programs like that were an excellent bridge to get them to where they can get back into some level of productivity. And they used it, I think, as intended. It was a temporary situation to promote them to get back into a more permanent pursuits on their own, things that they wanted to do. And I, for one, have encouraged that because I said, look, that's what the system's there for. Matter of fact, I think I've even jokingly told someone who did not want to be on government assistance. I said, hey, I paid my taxes for all these years. Go get my money back. You can have mine. You can have you can use the system. And I'm impressed. Not one person that I know of that I've encouraged, whether it be a single mom or someone along those lines, remained there. They all work themselves back into their more desirable situation. But things do happen.
So we have a person on TikTok who has commented. It's Nautilofus. I don't know how to say that, and I apologize. I'm sure I butchered that. But that's the handle that I'm reading on TikTok. And it says, yes, there is waste, but you don't burn it to the ground. 100% accurate. Mm-hmm. And that's not what we're proposing.
That's right.
The discussion here today is more about challenging our train of thought, challenging ourselves to be more accountable, mm-hmm. challenging our children, if you're a parent, mm-hmm. to learn accountability, productivity, and ambition, mm-hmm. and to develop a sense of pride in accomplishment.
Right.
Versus a sense of entitlement to get something for nothing.
I have a psychological factor I want to bring in here. So most everybody that I'm sure is listening, and our friend Kent notwithstanding, I mean, he's achieved a whole lot in his life that we're proud of for him. But that being said, when did you, me, and others, when did we feel that sense of motivation to pursue better, to work harder, to dig deeper? It's because we were in a state of pain, a state of discomfort, a state of unease, and we were working back to a state of ease. And I think if we're not careful as a society, we lose that margin. Where is it okay to allow people to have some level of dis-ease that they can work to make things better? Or when do we just supplement that? Because if we supplement it, well, goodness, yes, if you're just going to keep giving me something, if I didn't have any integrity left, I'll just take whatever you give me. Or at some point I'll say, no, I think I want to earn it on my own. I think it may come down to those two questions.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw out a couple of things here. I want to say hi to Cliff Cerny. I see you on there. Thank you for watching the show. Thank you guys, all of you who have joined so far and are watching. We've got somebody else who said something, Zach P on TikTok. He says, wow. Or we could hold corporations accountable for paying such low wages while subsidizing employees. So I'm curious about that. Hey, Kent, you have a good time in your meeting. Thank you for joining us. I want to talk about that, the low wages and subsidizing employees circumstance. So we make choices in America. That's a beautiful thing about being an American. You can choose to pursue a career working for someone else.
Yeah.
That can be your dream. That can be your goal. That can be your purpose. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Not at all.
And if that's it, live it to the fullest of your ability.
Please.
Love it with all your heart. Become the greatest in whatever position you find yourself in. But if it's not it, and you find yourself in a place of resentment, if you find yourself dissatisfied with your life, that's the beautiful part of being an American.
Yeah.
You can create a business out of anything. And if it doesn't work for you, try something different. That's what's amazing here.
Right.
No one's telling you what you have to be. No one's telling you have to stay at a job where you don't earn the income that you like.
Right.
No one's telling you that you have to, work for $20 an hour, $15 an hour, $10 an hour, and suck it up.
That's right.
You don't have to.
No.
Get out there, take the chance, take the risk, take responsibility, and create it for yourself.
Yes.
Then give somebody else a job.
Yes.
Create the possibility you want.
Well, and I believe that in part is still part of our great American culture. Now, other countries probably do very similar things. I'm not as familiar with them as I am our own, but I can tell you that folks who had that, and I appreciate Rob presenting it the way that it did, because that exact same scenario has happened to millions of people who have turned around and affected even millions more by creating something that from their heart, from their desires, and probably came out of a position of I guess feeling maybe underappreciated. And
Right.
so, you know what? I'm going to overcompensate for that. I'm not going to beg for more. I'm going to go produce more. And in that production, that energy has spread out and changed probably countless lives. And matter of fact, the gentleman I was just talking to earlier, they hire at any given time, some contract and some permanent, over 300 people at a time.
Right.
That's 300 families that are affected in a positive way because a handful of these guys got together and said, we can do it just as well, if not better. And all of these other people benefit in the process. Now, to me, that's the great American way.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got Zach P still commenting on here. He didn't like the way we went with that. He said a few comments. For those of you on TikTok, I'm sure you can see it. But he says, it's the worker's fault. No, I didn't say that. I said you can make a choice. If you don't like where you are, you can leave. Then he says, you want to talk about personal accountability. I'm not sure what that means. And then he goes down to say, the next comment says, neoliberalism. The perfect device for people who don't understand economics. Well, Zach P., I can assure you, I've been an entrepreneur my entire adult life. During that time, I've also had jobs as an employee, like for different things. I've been a police officer. I've done a lot of things. Basically, I feel like I've lived 150 years within 48 years, but I've been very blessed and fortunate to have a lot of
your
different
aches and pains have aches and pains.
Well, I feel blessed to have those aches and pains and still be able to articulate them.
There it is.
So
there it is.
I'm okay with that. But I'm really not sure what you mean by neoliberalism. I'm going to tell you this, that I'm a constitutional conservative. I'm about as constitutional conservative as you can get. So I'm not sure what that means, but it's okay. Thank you for taking part in the discussion, Zach P. I really appreciate your respectful remarks, and I'd love to engage with you further. And anybody out there, if you've got comments about this topic, we've been talking about entitlement and the concept of, what is it? How does it affect us? How's it impacting us culturally, societally? And then we've gotten into economically and politically.
Yes.
And that's
and they're all kind of threaded together.
Absolutely.
But I will say this: as an organization, Pursuit of Purpose is about personal development, your personal growth. So even if we bring it in a subject that we call entitlement, and which obviously can have maybe different facets of interpretation, but I'd like to think at the end of the day that all of us would agree that is about us doing our personal best, whatever it takes. And if that means I have to repurpose myself, if that means I have to retrain and grow in a whole nother direction, well, sometimes that happens. And that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes that can be one of the most amazing things that we've ever experienced. So I hope that we are, at the end of the day, you will agree with us on some level that it is about helping people be the best that they can possibly be. And if there's anything that gets in the way of that, well, then I think it's worth addressing. And hopefully our platform will do that.
Well, JT has made a comment. JT says the level of being out of touch is surreal. That's an interesting way to put that. Mm-hmm. So something that I find fascinating, since we're on social media and all of our people who are engaging are also on social media, the psychology of entitlement is a fascinating thing, right? I mean, we're kind of playing it out right here.
Sure.
In front of everyone.
Yes, we are.
Right? So if you want praise without effort, if you want health without discipline, or relationships without compromise, then you are practicing an entitlement mentality.
That's right.
And that's something that I've noticed. You know, I'm Generation X, and something that I've noticed with the rise of social media and with the rise of constant, instant information, we put ourselves out there online a lot. I know I have personally I've increased that quite a bit recently.
Yes, yeah.
Because of our, current what we're doing, our mission. So when we put anyone, if you put yourself out there, you've got to be open to, like JT's doing now, you've got to be open to praise or criticism, insults or admiration.
Right.
However it goes, it's okay. And as soon as you start to believe that people owe you positive feedback,
right,
you've fallen off into the deep end and you're living the entitlement mentality.
That's right.
And this is the problem that I actually, the crux of what I wanted to address on this show today was that.
Okay.
Not the social media aspect of it necessarily, but that ideology.
Right.
And
that we're owed.
Yeah. And I can remember, man, I want to say it was in the late 90s, early 2000s when there was a craze that swept the nation. And it started impacting our education system. And it was the everybody gets a trophy era.
Oh, yes.
And I believe that moment in time was pivotal for us as a society.
Right.
Because if you believe you deserve a trophy just for showing up, you're the poster child for an entitlement mentality.
You know, Rob, I've had countless people who grew up in that era that are now coming into our conversations, whether it's coaching or counseling, and they actually, and I'm using a broad word here, but they espouse resentment of being raised that way. And they can espouse that resentment because they grew up in it. They look back at their folks and they're like, what were you thinking? I got out here in the real world and that didn't happen.
Right.
But they started having some aches and pains and some occupational social situations. But at some point, these folks that I get to visit with ask the right person effective questions like, well, why don't they give me this? And then somebody in authority who's probably from our generation goes, well, it's because they don't have to.
Right.
You have to go earn it. And intellectually, they knew it, but emotionally, they struggled with it because they were raised with that wrong influence, if you will.
And I think that a big foundational point to deal with this is you can't expect rewards. You can't expect success. You can't expect wealth without without effort, risk, and sacrifice.
That's right.
You can't.
There's no way.
It's unreasonable.
It's unreasonable.
And no one else owes you those things.
That's right.
You owe yourself. You owe it to yourself and to your community, everyone you touch, to be self-disciplined.
Yes.
To be committed enough to yourself and to the outer world to sacrifice your pleasure, your comfort, your time, your energy enough to become a contributor.
Yes. All three of those are things that are contributed by self. Effort, risk, and sacrifice all must come from me. They cannot come from somebody else.
So JT says, you do realize this is 100% your story from your perspective that you're projecting on everyone else. And then he says, you do understand this is your projection on others from your perspective. Well, that's a fascinating perspective. The whole point of our discussion here today is to invite other people to share their perspectives. But of course, all I have to share is my perspective.
That's all.
It's all any of us have. And JT asked if I have children. Actually, I have quite a few of them. One of them's here on the with us in studio today. Yes. She's sitting on the other side of this desk watching us have this episode. I have 7 children alive on this earth. 1 in heaven right now. So 8 altogether. Is that a good enough answer for you, JT? Do you have any questions that are germane to the topic or anything that you'd like to discuss about entitlement? He says, I'm not just sharing. I don't know what that word is. I guess you mean to write sharing. You're defining others' perspective. No, I'm not. What do you think of? Okay, so I've got RIP. Rip says, what do you think of people wanting their tax dollars to be repurposed to benefit them? Well, that's a fascinating perspective.
Right.
What do you think about people who want their tax dollars repurposed in order to benefit them? The interesting thing about tax dollars was in their origin, they were actually supposed to be money that the government, I have a really negative taste in my mouth about taxes, but it was supposed to be money that the government collected in order to support us. It was supposed to be there to build our military, support our military, to build our infrastructure, support our infrastructure. It was supposed to be things that was for our benefit. That is 100%
right.
The way it was supposed to happen.
Right.
And as we've all seen over the years, any government that loses sight of its purpose, and its purpose is to serve the people, any government that grows to the point that believes the people serve it becomes corrupt.
Yes.
And that's what that's a
right.
lot of what we have. Our government has grown to the point beyond being a service to us.
Right.
It has become a self-serving, self-perpetuating system.
Right.
That sees the people as its resource. And currently, that's what it feels like to me. I don't know about you guys, but it feels like to me that that's what our taxes are. That's what we are. That's what.
Well, there are a handful of resources that we're keeping it on, I guess, this government topic. So, if the government is there to govern or administer, to preside, if you will, these are all words that we use in our ranks, over the resources of this country. So you have natural resources, that's land and everything under the land. Okay. And then you have the resources that come from the population. That's hard work, that's effort, that's the mental resources, the productivity, the innovations, and those sorts of things. The ability to take a raw material to a refined material for the use of the betterment of people. Okay, all of that is that comes from us as people. But if we organize enough to afford protection, such as military and things along those lines, and then so be it. That's we're protecting our abilities. We're not the ability. We're protecting those things. Well, and one of the other reasons we also had taxes, if you go back to our more revolutionary times, was also to pay off debt.
Right.
It was very expensive to basically
To have a war.
to facilitate the independence that we all get to live under,
Right.
and the freedoms and the opportunities that come from that. But that could be quickly paid off. Again, one of the biggest fears, which is why our Constitution is so beautifully written, is so that we don't slip into some of these mentalities that were the whole reasons for this Declaration of Independence to begin with, because people were living under a system that was just not sustainable. And they wanted to create a system that could be sustainable and profitable. Well, I think today we're bringing up a topic, which we may even bring up in the future again, is are we now putting things in place that are taking us back, eroding us back to this place of confinement rather than liberation?
Yeah. And since you brought that up, this is unrelated to taxes, but it kind of the confinement versus liberation. I'm going to go to something that came to my mind while you were saying that. We've noticed a rise in depression in our society recently, a rise in mental illness, a rise in very prevalent destructive mental problems that need therapeutic remedies and chemical remedies, a lot of medication and things like that. And there is empirical research to support, data to support that if we are not creating as a human, you are designed to be a creator of something.
Yes.
If we are not creating, we become depressed.
Yes.
Because we are not living to our potential in any way.
Right.
So
that is a neurochemical fact. When you are in creation mode, you are creating, you are actually producing all of the dopamine and all the other things that put us in a place of contentment and happiness. That is a fact.
So I wanted to correlate this to this entitlement mentality and ideology, because the ideology and concept of believing you are entitled takes you completely 180 degrees the other direction from being a creator.
Oh, wow.
When you say you deserve something, I am owed this, or, whatever, I don't have to work for that. You have just crippled yourself.
That's right.
You took away your own sense of creation, creativity, creatability, and you have then put yourself on a path towards mental demise.
Yeah, but there is literally probably a neurochemical shift in that moment. And without a counterbalance and more of it, if we stay on that trend, I agree with you, Rob. I think we will reach some undesirable depths of mental illness for sure.
Well, we're already seeing it.
And we're seeing it.
And it's so easy nowadays. Once upon a time, we didn't have all this connectivity and instantaneous information and all that stuff, the 24-hour news cycle and what have you. We had to go out and earn our living outside the home for the most part. We had to go have social interaction outside the home for the most part. When you were a child, you had to go and do your accomplishments, whether it had been for your parents or at school or whatever it might have been, but you had to do it outside the home. You had to do it with other people in person.
Right.
Now you can create that dopamine hit of accomplishment with a few clicks on a computer screen,
right,
or a phone. We've taken away the true creative nature of the social interaction by making it this.
Right. We certainly have, and so we've lost the connectivity.
I believe that perpetuates the entitlement mentality.
That's right. We've lost the productivity. If you think about it, friends, if you go back to not too many years ago, early parts of this century, definitely in the centuries prior, and this is just America, you go back in human history, and we were easily a 6 to 7 day week. Every day we had to get up, and we had a small group and sometimes large group of things that must be done on a daily basis in order to maintain some level of health and productivity. And I'm not against technology, but have we lost the benefits of that? And it kind of seems like we have.
Well, we're drawing close on time. There are many aspects of this. I'm going to touch on this really fast, but I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you all for being involved today with the engagement. There's been a lot of great discussion. But one of the aspects I want to touch on really quick before we close is the economic impact of this entitlement mentality and how it correlates instantaneous to our lives. And you can touch it, you can feel it. And everybody listening or watching the show today can relate to this. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if it strikes a nerve, sorry, I'm not sorry, but I've experienced this in my own personal life. Yeah. I'm guilty of this. Okay. So I'm not preaching. I'm actually just speaking from my own life.
Sure.
One of the things that we have trained ourselves for in a negative economic sense with the entitlement aspect is instant gratification. Mm-hmm. And the means whereby we gain that instant gratification is debt. We get this immediate feeling of, I get what I want right now. And I can do it with a piece of plastic. Yes. I can do it by signing a piece of paper. I can have that brand new $120,000 truck because I've got on my phone these numbers that say my credit score is this. So all I got to do is sign a piece of paper and they'll give it to me.
Wow.
I'm entitled to that because I've got this.
Those numbers tell me I can.
Yeah. Well, and I deserve it. I mean, why not? I've got a job. I should have it.
Right.
But what happens when you lose that job and you have that debt? Are you still entitled to that truck?
Right.
Who's the victim when that happens? But that's a hard shift.
Yeah.
And that is a reality of an entitlement mindset.
Yes.
It truly is.
Right.
And I have practiced that in my own life.
It's a good example.
And that is a real economic factor that causes daily impact on our society.
Right.
How many, we've got entire industries built because of that. The repo industry.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Is that the craziest thing in the world?
For sure.
Then you've got what we call note lots. That's a term that, is probably not all that official, but note lots are those who cater to people with less than good credit because they've already had repos.
Right. Right.
And sure, there are off circumstances where people go through things.
Yeah.
Tragedy, hurricanes, deaths, things like that happen.
Yeah.
But that's not the common.
No.
The common is that we get ourselves into debt because we want the thing that makes us feel good right now. And we believe we can justify it and we are owed it.
Right. We personally overextended ourselves with the attitude of entitlement. Absolutely.
So that's just one example.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go ahead and close the show with that being our last thing to discuss in detail, unless anybody in the audience would like to bring anything up. We really appreciate you guys joining us.
We do,
and we will be back next week, same time, 10 o'clock on Tuesday, 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. We appreciate all of you. Thank you for allowing us to become a part of the pursuit of your purpose. I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck,
and we will talk soon.